Yes, you already know what it is. We are back for another episode of Rap. This month is September. Let's get into it. All right. So it's the end of September, and we're going to go all into what happened this month. This actually was probably the quietest month we've had since we've been doing this show, which is interesting because all the other months were packed full with, just a whole lot of debauchery. But
Calamity. Yep.
we are back. It is I'm here with my co-host Aaron from Poor Over Finance.
Yes, sir.
I realize I never say my name, but my name is K Styles. We're here on the Inkright Network talking about the last month. So we're gonna start off with let's start off with something I feel like you're very knowledgeable about,
Really well
which is
versed.
the NFTs and everything not being worth what people thought it would be after you spent all your money on a monkey.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Those monkey pictures didn't work out too well, huh? So yeah, I mean to be honest with you, it's one of those things where the industry sees a big spike, everyone jumps in, prices get out of control, and then that market corrects or plummets or whatever, and then the industry loves bad news. So to hear that everything went to zero or is 95% lower than it was when it initially was like doing well, that's what's going to get all the headlines. But it started there, right? These things didn't start in the millions of dollars or whatever the case is. And anyone that understands the cryptocurrency industry, and unfortunately NFTs kind of follow the same flow as the cryptocurrency industry, is that there are peaks and valleys. It has these insane spikes where things go out of control, which is called like the market peaks. And then we have market bottoms, which happen after corrections and things like that. But me personally, I've never really been a follower of NFTs. I have no interest in JPEGs on a blockchain. It really is not something that it doesn't interest me, even though I know that there's different forms of NFTs. The ones that were really doing well is the art stuff. I'm not interested in that. But if you pay attention to just the crypto industry as a whole, even the NFT industry, is that, say for instance, we'll take Bitcoin. Bitcoin in the last market got to a height of almost $70,000 per Bitcoin. Right now it's hovering around 26, 27. Every time there is another halvening that happens and Bitcoin goes up, the prices that it had previously, it never goes back to those prices. So it's almost as if you have to look at the industry on a long scale, not the shortened scale. It's only been like 2 or 3 years since this whole NFT thing happened, the whole boom happened. So someone who bought an NFT at the peak, right now they're feeling the pinch on that. But if you look at the way the industry goes and you zoom out, as they say, and you look at it on a 5 or a 10 year scale, someone who might have bought an NFT at, let's say, $100,000 at market peak, considering that industry returns to where it used to be, the next cycle it might be 120K, and then it may drop. And then the following market, it might be 140K, and then it may drop. But the person who holds on to that asset over the long haul is the one that really makes the money. It's the same thing that happens with real estate. It's the same thing that happens with stocks. Apple's stock didn't start where it is. Amazon's stock didn't start where it is. I know for a fact Meta's stock didn't start where it is. But if you go look at when that stock first came out and you look at all the peaks and valleys that have happened over the course of how many years that particular asset has been on the market, you'll see, if you pull back, that it gradually goes up. So I say all of that to say, yes, it's bad for the NFT industry right now, but it's too early to just say it's been a failure. And that's what all the news articles are out there saying. It's like, you bought it, you wasted all your money, you're a loser, blah, 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 whatever it is they're saying out there. But pull back, exhibit some patience, and let's see where the market goes in 5, 10 years before making any harsh judgments on the industry as a whole.
Gotcha. Um, I guess my one question to you is like, how come you didn't dive into the NFT market? I know you said it's like you weren't interested in the JPEGs, but like,
I see no use case for it. So I go into crypto because I see use cases for some of these cryptocurrencies. It's a lot of technicalities. When you start starting to talk about things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. Like Ethereum has its smart contract platform and all these other things that are being built on the Ethereum blockchain. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is kind of like an answer to current fiat, so there's problems being solved, and there's actual use cases. There's reasons for some of these blockchains and some of these crypto that exist. There's actual tangible, well, not tangible, but you can see what it's attempting to do. I do not understand what an NFT is attempting to do. Therefore, I don't see the value in it for me personally. Now, that's not to say that value doesn't exist. There are artists that have released their music as NFTs. I was just recently listening to a podcast where they mentioned that Rihanna has digitized some of her music. So you can go buy 0.0010% of Rihanna's music, and every time that song is listened to and a royalty is earned, you get a little bit of a kickback. Now, I don't know how much that costs, but considering that Rihanna's music continues to thrive over the next 20, 30, 40 years, you're just earning money passively because of something you bought 5, 10 years ago. That might work out for you and your kids 50 years in the future. So obviously there's use cases for it, but me personally as an investor, I don't see any real value for myself, so I choose not to delve into that particular asset class.
makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was short, brief. I don't think there's much else to say about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you going to be buying any monkeys in the next market cycle?
no, I think I'll sit this out. Sit this one out. I think crypto is also something I'm trying to understand. So it's like, you try to, they talk about diversification, but that's a little too much there. I think you want to start off, get the handle of something before you try to, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like chasing things that are popular. And I did it.
Mm.
I did it with the GameStop stuff. I did it with AMC. I actually avoided. I delayed with GameStop because people were like, just go ahead and do it. It's gonna be that thing. And I'm like, generally from my limited understanding of trading, if you know about it as a regular consumer, then it's probably a little too late, right? Like
A lot of these things are,
you're
yes.
probably gonna be getting to it too late, which means you're not gonna see anything. But nonetheless, end up buying, GameStop and you know, that
Yeah. Not to
that
get too
story.
much into finance, because I could talk about that all
Yeah,
day
yeah.
long. But at the point that you hear about it in the news, you really probably should not be buying in, simply because there's a thing in finance that is called, basically, that investing is a transfer of wealth from the patient to the impatient. The person that is impatient, that's jumping on all of these market cycles where things are booming and it's in the news and it's heavy, you're the person that's filling the bag of the person who was patient and slowly investing over the course of the time when no one was talking about it. And when everyone starts to talk about it, that's the time that those people are taking their profits because the market cycle is up. So I agree with that mental sentiment that you
Yeah.
have. Definitely. If it's in the news, stay
It's
away.
it's too late. And I fell into that with GameStop, and I regretted it because I was like, it was literally, I think, a week or two before the whole Saturday Night Live thing with Elon, and I'm like, oh my
Mm.
god. It said watch that thing tank the next morning, and I'm like, well, I didn't put a lot of money in it. I know people who
Yeah.
put a lot of money into it because they
Really?
were like,
Wow.
yeah, and they just stopped talking after that. They stopped talking about trading altogether.
Really?
Yeah,
That
they're
that
like,
noticed that a lot during when the
yeah,
market was high. I there's a lot of people that were doing a lot of talking. That is like it's quiet on all fronts
it
now.
disappeared, bro. And that's why the real they say the market always corrects, right? So
Of
like,
course,
if you got it once, it's gonna correct. So it was
this
fun
is true.
times.
This is true.
So moving on. So to Shakira, who could potentially
Mm,
do some jail time for tax evasion, which is wild to me because it's like I get it, right? Like you don't want to stiff the government. There's a lot of things that comes into, the Uncle Sam is gonna get his or her, I don't know if we ever identified gender, but uh they're gonna get their money. But like jail time, and I know his Uncle Sam is American, so I think it
right.
was in Spain.
Spanish, right.
So, but like, damn, to think that like this is a thing that she could actually go to jail. Um, I guess those hips do lie.
Oh, damn. Well, those hips made the money. It's unfortunate because you're spending all of your time, your effort, your blood, sweat, tears, value making this money, and then the government they're just taking a part of it. And I understand, the taxes go towards infrastructure and paying for government employees and things like that. But honestly, I don't think we get the value for our taxes that we should be getting. So I can understand why people don't want to pay taxes. It's if the government was a little bit more transparent and honest and we actually saw value for what we were paying for, I think people would be there'd be a lot less people trying to avoid taxes is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that what she did is right, but I can understand the mindset of someone who works extremely hard to make money only to have the government take it and then watch them just misuse all of the money that you worked so hard for.
That's
I can
true.
misuse that myself.
Yeah. The other thing too to keep in mind is that when you're dealing with people who are not doing like regular 9 to 5 jobs where your check automatically pulls out the taxes,
Correct.
there's like a actual process of ensuring that you're allotting the right amount of money to the taxes based on your salary and how much money you make. So that I know is something that is probably, as from a business standpoint, is very complicated and you need to have good people around you to do that. And I don't know in her case whether or not it was like any mishandling of funds on like accountant's part because we've heard that in the past. But like still like going to potential of going to jail like that is it's like to get to that height and then have to go to jail for something like that, it's wild.
Yeah, and I don't think in her case there was any mishandling of funds or anything like that. Because if you read a little bit into the article, it actually mentions the fact that she was going out of her way to do this. Like she was moving money to offshore accounts, tax
Mm,
havens and things like that. I also became aware of the fact that this is not the first time that
yeah,
she's had a little bit of a tax issue. So this woman has been playing with the government for a little while. So listen, if you get into problems with the government regarding taxes and you for some reason avoided jail time but you continue to do it, you want to,
asking,
yeah, it's like
you're
come
asking
on,
for it.
man. Come on. How many times do you have to touch the hot stove and get burned before you realize you're not supposed to put your hand there? It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but
Hey,
you got to pay to play.
it
Biggest
is.
gangsters.
And honestly, I would say she probably needs to like diversify her friends because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there avoiding paying the level of taxes that she has to pay. And
So, what are you saying? She needs to get with the big crooks?
yeah, man,
Oh shit, listen to that.
so
That's
no,
terrible
it's
advice.
it's horrible, right? But the truth is, there are people out there that are finessing the hell out of the tax system. Like our former president in America was one of them. Paid
See, but
seven hundred
that's the
thousand,
thing.
seven hundred
I
dollars in taxes.
so I don't know that I agree with the fact. Listen, there is something that is literally called legally avoiding taxes. There are ways to avoid taxes legally because the tax law is written in such a way where, okay, I'm able to write this off. Like, for instance, we'll use Mr. Donald J. Trump, as you mentioned. You know, one of his avoidances, from my understanding, is he turned his whole golf course into like a funeral, not a funeral home,
Yeah,
into a cemetery.
cemetery. Yeah,
And there are specific laws written. I believe that was in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
of
Correct
course,
me,
it's Florida.
but there are specific laws written that if your property is this, you can do X amount of taxes per year as a write off. That's a legal thing. If the government is going to write that into the code, why would I not take advantage of it? It's there for a reason. He had a whole thing with Hillary where she was pretty much saying he won't reveal his taxes. He said, listen, I have revealed my taxes. I'm doing exactly what your friends are doing. You won't change the tax code. You've had the opportunity to do it because you've been in these positions to do it, and you won't do it because you know that it's going to affect your friends. However, you want to speak on the fact that I'm not paying taxes when I'm using the same strategies that your friends are using. So I don't consider anything wrong in that. If a tax code is written and you can benefit from it, benefit from it. Don't
But
avoid it, just benefit from the law that it's written.
but the argument then comes in is that she was not potential, and we don't know because like when you get into international policy, it's a whole nother ball game.
Right.
But she's clearly not taking advantage of some of these. If there's like potential of jail time, there's no jail time. All the counts that Donald Trump has against him, the 90 something counts of things he's done, none of them include tax evasion.
Because he did it right. He did it
So
legally. So I don't know. The tax laws in Spanish in Spain are probably not as extensive as the tax laws here in the United States. So I don't know what she could have done. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it in terms of her getting better friends, I agree. Get better friends who know the tax laws, hire better tax attorneys, hire better accountants. You're making way too much money to be in this position. And quite frankly, I mean, listen, I don't want to give up that kind of cash. But if I made $15 million and I owe 6 million in taxes, I'm giving up that 6 million without even looking at it twice. 6 million, and I'm keeping the rest of this. Come on. Sometimes greed has to be brought into
put in
play here.
check, yeah.
Some people want the vacation homes and the summer homes and they want to live this certain life, and it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, and by no means am I saying not pay your taxes, but like to have to go to jail behind taxes seems
Right.
like you did something wrong.
I would rather be free and have no money than to be locked up with millions of dollars.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, to talk about giving back to the people, uh, which is controversial in general, but there's a lot of news going around this month about Diddy giving back the publishing for all the bad boy artists.
Hmm.
Um, and it was met with a lot of flack and a lot of feelings one way or the other. So we're gonna touch on that for a second. What were your thoughts on that? And I guess the timing is really not that big of a deal, but like, what was your thoughts on that in general?
I was wondering if he made the calls specifically himself or it was like a lawyer thing. And I wonder when the lawyer presented the paperwork, if on the paperwork it said, here's your publishing, take that, I don't, I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
But honestly, when I initially heard of it, I was kind of pissed off. I was not happy about it for the wrong reasons. And as time went on and I was able to kind of think about it differently, I still was not happy with what happened, but I was also saying to myself, hey, better than nothing. You're one of the people that was able to change my mindset in regards to the way I was looking at it. Because the way I was looking at it is black and white. These were the publishing, or was it the Yeah, it was publishing, right?
Publishing,
Not
yeah.
masters. It was
No, I
publishing.
think it was publishing, yeah.
Yeah, so they're publishing, and these artists we're talking about, let's be honest, for the most part, P. Diddy's music empire was at its largest between the early 90s and maybe the beginning of the 2000s. So that was like when these artists were hot. They were hot for about 10 years. And during that time, all of their publishing was held by P. Diddy. And he was able to use that to make money and build other businesses. And he's a billionaire now. My thing is that if you care about black people and promote black business and buying black and taking care of the black community and all of that, one of the first things you should have been doing is looking to give the rights to these artists when these artists were going to be able to really build something with it for themselves and their family. You talk about generational wealth. As an artist who's been able to create something like this that was going to pay dividends for years to come, this is how I can then build something for my family, which can then build something for their family and, move it on like that. But here we are 30 years later, for some of these artists, and they're just getting their publishing, and it's worth next to nothing, and they can't really shop it around the way they could have back in the 2000s. The whole industry has changed with streaming and everything like that, so the paychecks aren't the same. Physical media doesn't get sold like that anymore. Everything has changed for these artists. So I kind of saw it as, yeah, you gave it back to them when it was used and abused and valueless. But the way I see it now is that while I still wish he had done it when it could have made a major impact in these artists' lives, he didn't have to do it at all. And in that regard, I give him some bail because, quite frankly, there are a lot of sharks out there who will continue to eat until every last drop is bled out of it. And even then, you're not seeing anything. So, I guess to a degree, clap it up for the fact that he did do that. But I still wish that these artists were able to eat off of their work back when their work was making the majority of the money.
Yeah, and as I said, like I don't I'm in the camp where I'm not necessarily arguing that what Diddy did was like amazing or is this great thing that like everybody should salute him for.
Right.
But I do think that it is it does give a slight point benefit for him because he could have never did it. Like he could have just kept going on. There was no real reason to do that. And granted, yes, a lot of the time has passed on some of these things, so you're not going to see it. But all you need is like a versus, or I mean, I don't think versus is dead now, so like I don't think they've done any of those versus challenges in a while. But like any of those things, they can find a way to make that stuff, um, you know, pop in again, and um, it's just like you can nostalgia is a thing. So if you could tap into that the nostalgia of that, you can actually make some. You should be able to make a little bit more money than you were making before. So, um, I think to the point that you were saying too, and then we had this conversation off camera as well, where we're talking about like the him talking about being the black business and stuff like that, and I think that you see that people come to terms with like they didn't do things right, and this is like somewhat of an atonement for that. And I
Hmm.
know that a lot of this started after Mace. Him and Mace were going at it for a while in 2020, and I think that probably pushed this in a direction.
Right.
But the truth is, when Diddy started, he wasn't the only one doing this. So it's not like we're pinpointing this as a thing because we see him and we've known him to be a part of the fixture of the hip hop music industry for a long time. But like the truth of the matter is, like that same thing happened with Baby. The same thing happened with Babyface and Tony Braxton. Like it's just been it was unfortunate part of the game, um and it's good to see that that is changing, especially as a creative, because that means that like if you are signing with a major, you do have the opportunity to argue and negotiate for some of your stuff. Like it's the savvy's a little bit, the business savvy's better now. So hopefully we see less and less of these
Yeah.
situations as we go forward.
Yeah.
But you know
Yeah, I mean, hey,
This is
big shout out to the artists that were able to retain or achieve or get granted back their publishing. Hopefully, you can do something with it, and I don't know, pull whatever value it may still have sitting in it.
yeah,
Hopefully,
and just reignite something. Because I mean, as I said, nostalgia is a thing. If you could tap into that, somebody will like that. Somebody will like the music. Someone we liked the music before. So, um, going on to people, I guess squashing beefs. I don't know, because there was a beef with Diddy for a long time for that. So we're gonna talk about this one instance that I of a person I do not like to talk about just because he just not my type of person. But we're talking about Vic Mensa and academics, and I have no problem with Vic Mensa if you're wondering. So they had a big beef going back to Everyday Struggle. Was the name of
yeah,
it?
it
Yeah.
happened on a everyday struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where Vic Mensa almost smacked academics Koofy off, and it was just basically I understood where Vic was coming from because academics built his platform talking about Chicago and talking about stuff that he didn't have to live about, and in a kind of satirical way. And it felt like it felt like culture vulture ish, right? Like, yes, he was reporting on stuff that a lot of people other places didn't know, but it was like there was real people behind the stuff that he's reporting. So I put academics in the same category as a Vlad T. I feel like I'm just creating all these beasts right now. I'm not, I don't really care. I'm fine with any smoke, but I just don't. That's not what we're about here at Incrowd. But like, there's a group of people that feel like they just there to take from the culture, and academics felt like he was doing that. So when Vic Mensa was on Everyday Struggle with was that Joe Buttons in the Deska,
Yeah,
um, it got kind of heated, right?
it did.
Um, and I understood why that is because of so Vic Mensa coming up in Chicago. Like this was the people that academics was talking about from his bedroom were like real people that Vic either knew or interacted with, and so it was real. So apparently, Vic Mensa came out and he came onto Academics podcast and they squashed the beef. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, hey, I applaud it. I applaud it up because I really don't personally like black versus black, in terms of anything in the public eye, anything that could lead to violence, anything like that. I'm not a big fan of it. I do understand that for a number of years, what academics was doing in terms of that show, The War on Chirac, I believe is what it was called, where he was just reporting on some of the things that were going on in Chicago in regards to, in some cases, rap artists, and other cases, non-rap artists. And like you said, it was, I think the main problem that Vic had is that the fact that it was being presented with satire. It was like entertainment. And it's like, yo, people are really dying here, people are really losing lives, this is really happening, this is not entertainment, this is not something to be joking on, this is the way in which it's being done is not the right way. I've actually seen some stuff done on what's going on in Chicago, and I forgot the name of the guy on YouTube that was doing it, but he had this one called the Backdoor Queen, where she basically like backdoored one of her homies or whatever. But the way that they did that, it was more like documentary style, kind of bringing a light to something that existed rather than, like clowning it and making fun of it. So I think that's the reason why Vic took offense to it. And what he said to academics at the time, the way he felt about it at the time, I personally saw nothing wrong with it because, listen, if you're going to do this, you have to understand that there are people that are going to be offended by it. You have to understand that there are real lives being affected by the stuff that you're joking on. It is not funny, it is not entertainment. I know people that died behind this, so I understand how he felt. But the fact that they were able to get together and clean that up and squash that beef, I'm a big fan of that as well. I think we should see more of that in the entertainment industry, and especially in the hip hop industry. It's like too many lives are being lost behind so-called internet beef and just other kinds of beefs.
Yeah,
It's not a plus.
yeah, I could see that. And you're right. That is the diplomatic way. I just don't like academics.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I'm not bringing his character into consideration for this. It's more so about the fact that him and Vic came together and squashed that. Vic is doing really well. His new album is pretty decent. He seemed to have cleaned up a lot. He's speaking more positively. I saw he did like some freestyle stuff out there. He was on Sway. I'm really happy to see that he's bouncing back as an artist. Academics, I have nothing to offer on. I mean, he's doing what he does. It's whatever. I like his not YouTube, his IG, because it really keeps me up to date with some of the lesser known artists that I like to listen to. So I do appreciate him for at least keeping them very public in terms of the being able to see what's going on. I do appreciate that. His personality, his character, all of that stuff. Not a big fan, but whatever. I don't watch him for that. I don't care for that.
You said character or the lack thereof. But
Lack
moving along.
thereof. I don't
Move,
care.
yeah, I don't. I try not to talk about this guy very much because I just it's. I'm someone who was probably says hate. It's not hate. It's just that he's not the type of person that I would want to be around. So
Yeah, I
I
could I
just
could see that.
moving along. Either way, so we were gonna talk about the Hollywood strike because everybody was talking about the Hollywood strike, and literally as we were prepping for this, they ended it. So
Beautiful.
it was like wonderful. I mean, this took. It felt like this was the longest strike that happened, but I mean, I understood the reasoning why. I mean, I think that it is something that we needed to actually pay attention to because as at least as people who are adjacent in the media world, like this is a thing that people literally were concerned about in their livelihoods, and I get it. Like I completely understand, and it was just good to see a resolution come that was somewhat favorable. Which also means that at some point we'll get like shows again. I remember the last time we had that strike. I mean, a lot of shows just died. Like
Really?
it was super. It was like that was around the time Heroes was on TV. I don't know if you remember Heroes.
No.
It was a like NBC show where there's like these people had supernatural powers and they were all across the world and we're following their stories. And when the writer's strike happened, there were like 2 seasons of just like trash. And I'm like, what is happening here, bro?
Really? It
It's like
was
they
that
brought
bad?
yeah, it was like it was clearly like they didn't follow whatever. I think it was based on a comic book, whatever that was. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to add to that, but
You
I'm
know,
happy it's
you
over.
that's something really interesting because you mentioned that during the period that the strike was going on, it was trash. So who's writing? If the writers are striking, who's writing?
I think they brought in backups
So there are people there are people
crossing the
out
picket
there.
line.
Okay, and they're not that good, I guess.
That's why they. That's why it's
I
either that or they were just putting it together. Like let's figure it out with whoever. Because the one thing that was different with this one is that I feel like actors were also a part of this writer strike, so that was a good thing because there was a solidarity there. But last time I don't think there were as many actors standing with the writers like that. So
Interesting. If the musicians striked, that would affect me
cool.
more. But the
Yeah.
the actors and the writers and stuff striking, that doesn't affect me as much. I enjoy a good TV show or a good movie here and there, but it's not. If the podcasters and the musicians strike, it's a wrap for me. That's my
Yeah.
entertainment.
I don't know what that would look like.
For me, it
Um,
will look very man, it'll be some tough days to get through.
yeah, I don't. I mean, and they should.
I'll
Not to
tell you right now, I would cross the picket line. If
damn
the
son.
podcasters are striking, that's the moment where I'm going in because now I'm the only game in town. Are you kidding me? You think I'm gonna be on the picket line? I'm gonna be out there like, listen, I'm all you got. Let's
That's
do
funny.
this. That's what I'm doing. I mean, they might want to kick my door in and everything like that, but yo, I gotta do what I gotta do.
I mean, I guess the question is, what are we fighting for, right? Because if everybody's fighting for something, I get the idea of like being the one moving, but at the same time, like, is it more detrimental by being the only one moving? Then
Listen,
so that's the question.
this is probably a different conversation for a different day, but I have yet to encounter a man or a woman that has gotten me to where I am in life. So, unless you are specifically going to come and pay my bills, I have to do what I have to do. And I understand striking has it's a deeper value there. It's like the company or whatever the industry is not doing right by you. So you come together because together as a force, you can create change, whereas individually you can't. But as someone that is attempting to make my mark in an oversaturated industry, if that industry were to pull back, I have to step forward in order to this is my opportunity. You don't see opportunities that frequently. It's almost like the market crash with housing. There's a lot of people that can't buy homes because homes are expensive. If a crash happens, the people who have not been able to buy homes but have been holding a certain amount of cash, they can now step forward and buy a home because they could never do it because it was so oversaturated and high. And that's how I would see it. If I were a rapper, if I were in a podcast and I'm struggling and a strike happened, that is the moment when I turn it from 100 to 150. I'm going hard because that's my opportunity to jump in there. I'm just if that's wrong, then so be it. I'm fighting for the same reason everyone else is fighting, right? They're fighting to feed their families and they're seeing striking as the way of doing it. I'm seeing this is a way for me to feed mine, and going against the grain and really standing out in this time is my way of accomplishing it.
Yeah,
Two different strategies. You can't blame me for doing what I need to do, just like I can't blame you for doing what you got to do.
facts. No, I get that. I get that. Um, moving along. I think the last big thing that we had on the Hollywood thing was the Danny Masterson sentenced to
Ooh,
30 years to
I didn't
life.
follow this one much at
30
all.
years to life, which is crazy because that's like Jesus Christ.
I didn't even know that this was happening. I think I heard about it after it happened, after the sentencing. I didn't know this was happening at all. This guy was free and walking around just a couple of years ago. I didn't
Yeah.
know he was convicted of this stuff. And it really bothers me too because the victims are all anonymous and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It
It bothers you
seems.
that they're anonymous or just bothers like I guess what about that bothers you? I'm intrigued.
Listen, if you're going to say that someone did something, you should probably be in the spotlight.
I disagree in this case. And I'll tell you
Really?
why. The thing is, when you're in the spotlight, you're generally going to be pushed into a place where people are going to have their feelings of whether or not you're right or wrong. And I think that if they were able to come to the determination that he deserves 30 years in jail, means that they literally whatever happened, they have enough evidence where the people didn't need to come out. It doesn't mean that they're hiding under the veil of secrecy or anything like that, but like these people can then continue to live like normal lives, right? Versus like I'm trying to think of another case of something like that, but like you get looked at a certain way if you're saying, especially before, like now that things have kind of corrected itself and people are actually um, upholding these victims and actually getting justice for the things that they did when it's actually real. I think it's there should be a level of like, well, okay, now that it's done, I could go on and live my life without you know being getting some kind of I
I
don't say
understand. I
flashback,
definitely
but
understand
yeah.
that point of view. The only thing is that, and I don't know anything about this, so it's hard for me to speak on it, but if there was any shadow of a doubt that this really did happen, removing those individuals from the public eye kind of removes the ability to bring in additional evidence and maybe people who are aware of things that would not have otherwise been aware. I don't know anything about it, so it's hard to say, but an accuser should be publicized as well. I don't know, unless we're without a shadow of a doubt we know that this person did this thing. You're accusing someone of something. I don't know if I want to hide you so that you can make your accusations in the dark. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and I
The
get that,
person
but
that's being accused has to be out there taking all this
yeah.
heat. I'm just I still go by that whole thing where they say innocent until proven guilty, which it looks like at this point that's no longer a thing. My understanding is the minute that these accusations came out, companies pulled away from him, revenue streams were ended. Like he didn't even have a fair court case yet, and he was already, people were moving away from him. I'm not a fan of that. I've seen it happen where people have been accused of things that they did not do and then had to clean their lives up afterwards. I'm not a part of that mob that likes to just hear someone say something and then just start pulling out the pickaxes. It's
Yeah.
unacceptable. But
It's,
like I said, I don't know anything about this case, really, so I can't speak much on it.
yeah.
It's just he gotta do that time, whether he's innocent or not now.
Yeah, well, I think that I agree with that we are quick to like people. The pickaxes are like hanging up right over their doors,
Immediately.
their front doors. They're ready to go at any moment. It's like, oh, we heard something. Let's grab this
Yeah,
thing. Like you can't find a tiki torch anywhere these days because like
it's
people are just.
crazy.
But I do think that in this case, it sounded like there was some evidence. There had to be some evidence because they didn't just try him. They gave him 30 years.
Right.
So
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
I
hey.
feel like there's some validity there, and I think it is unfortunate that it is you get tried in the court of public opinion
Hmm.
because that public opinion generally has very little facts and then they fabricate everything else. And that's
Right.
one of the things that I guess I'm worried about with the victims because like if somebody says, "Oh no, you're lying," like let's think about the Jonathan Majors thing. Jonathan Majors been pulled for so much stuff, and granted, I think that they handled this very oddly because I would have done everything in my power to show that I was innocent immediately, knowing exactly how this worked. But it's showing more and more stuff that he did not actually do what he was accused of, but everybody, like, he got dropped from so many things, and even the people who would have been clearing it up for him moved away, like lost PR firm, lost managers, all that stuff. So when you have to deal with the court of public opinion, it's horrible. It's a
Yeah,
bunch of
it's terrible.
it's a bunch of Twitter fingers. I don't know if I don't X fingers sounds weird. Twitter fingers out here feeling
X
they
fingers.
yeah they use this opportunity to you know feel like they have a voice in this thing, and it's just horrible. But
Yeah.
I wish the best to those victims. Hopefully, this gives you some kind of closure. I mean, it is what it is, and moving along.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we had started this in the last episode where we're just doing honorable mentions, which are just short things that we're going to talk about, pass through really quickly. I already see one of these being probably a little longer, but I think it's still we're going to keep it an honorable mention. But starting off with Usher. Now I've had strong feelings about Usher on all of our podcasts, but he's going to be doing the Super Bowl this year, or I guess next year, and I'm gonna check it out. But like, shout out to Usher for getting the Super Bowl because I feel like he's been making a very interesting comeback. Because he was like quiet for many years, but
He
now he's
was.
like he's like a regular conversation at least every couple of months. So clap it up for Usher.
Yeah, that's a fact. He's hot again.
Yeah, bro.
What are we talking about? 30 years into his career, this
Bro.
guy is blazing hot.
Yeah. So shout out to Usher, what he's done. I still think what he did to TPA was fucked up. But shout out to Usher.
Mm.
I'm not gonna let that go. I'm sorry. It never. It's not my business, but I'm not gonna let it go. Moving along, Kai Cenat and Offset did like a 24-hour stream together,
Oh,
which
was it 24 hours?
yeah, I thought I kept seeing clips and stuff of this, and I was like, this looks interesting, and hilarious because it just looks like if they're two buddies hanging out, and I think there was even a point where they had a chef in the background while they were like knocked out, and the chef was like making them food and stuff, and I'm
And they
like,
were sleeping.
yeah, bro. I'm like, you know what? It looks. This is the stream culture. They had a sleepover on stream now. And
That's how you get that money.
hey, listen, people probably watch that whole thing, which is
Mm.
that's the world we're in now. But
In crowd 24-hour stream coming up.
we got, man. Listen, I feel like we'd have to figure out how to do that in a very creative way. Like,
Sleep on stream.
I think we'd have to have like some like a bunch of cameras, bunch of rooms all tied into. Like, I would want to do something else, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So speaking of Offset, him and Nicki Minaj husband has been getting into it, which it's very comical to me because I don't understand why Nicki Minaj husband seems to be popping up a lot, and I'm just like, he seems like he's making questionable decisions in life.
He seems like he's making questionable decisions in life.
You don't agree?
No. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
I'm just asking. Of course, this is a questionable decision. I think, from what I understood, he's on parole.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, if you're on parole and you're out in the streets with the goons looking for the funny part to me about all of this, because again, this is one of those situations where it's like, eh, the fact that Offset is at Kai Cenat's place and then going from private jet to car right up on the runway, and this is the life he's living, and then Big Zoo, as I hear him being called online, he's in the streets with like literally dudes that look like they're in their mid to late 40s standing on what looks like a New York corner. I don't know where they were, but it's just like the the contrast is just, to me it was hilarious, because clearly one man is,
It's doing well.
he's like, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's got business relationships, he's flying private, he's moving a different way, and then this other individual is on the streets. You're a husband and a father. And I don't know. I Listen,
Yep. That's
congrats to them all.
and the fact that we're talking about it, yeah, congrats. But honestly, I was just like, Offset had the hilarious response. I saw his response to that, and I just died
He
laughing.
was just laughing.
He was laughing. I'm like, yo, first of all, this is something between Nicki and Cardi. It didn't really have to escalate there. But also, like, what? You sound crazy out here, bro.
I think laughing is one of the best reactions that anyone can give to a situation. Just recently, they asked Ciara what it was like co-parenting
Oh
with
yeah, yeah, I saw
all
that.
she did was laugh. I think that is a hilarious reaction. Offset, laughing. There's also a clip of Drake in like a Rafe or something like that when Kanye posted his address online, and all he did was in the car, he's just like laughing. I think laughing is the best reaction a human being can have to a situation like that. No words. I'm not telling you anything. You'll never know how I feel about it. I'm just gonna laugh, and you
Yeah,
interpret that how you feel like it.
facts,
I like that.
facts. So moving along, it sounds like Lil Wayne is still dropping music, and there's
Fire.
another project coming out, and he's supposed to be dropping a project before the Carter 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're about to get a lot more Lil Wayne music. I mean,
And
and
he's rapping better than ever, so I'm ready to hear it.
if it's anything like what he did on that Nas record, I'm
Facts.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And
Yeah.
honestly, Lil Wayne is one of those weird artists that I feel like definitely they don't sound like they fall off. Like whenever they do come out, it does seem like like he elevates himself a little bit. But we haven't heard anything from Lil Wayne in like I want to say like 6 years, 7 years.
Bro, it's impressive to me. My man's braids are retiring. He's had he's had multiple instances where we heard he's had seizures because of the lean and all of this, but that brain is still firing like he's in his late teens, early 20s,
Yeah, bro.
like when he was. I Listen, I have a lot more respect for Lil Wayne now than I did when he was like really hot, because
Yeah,
I wasn't really a Wayne fan back then. I was still one of those New Yorkers that was like, man, there's some stuff that's cool coming out of the South, but I'm still on this New York stuff. And as a result of that, I wasn't really paying too much attention to Wayne. But when I did start paying attention, I was extremely impressed by what I was hearing.
yeah.
He's he's like a Jay, he's like a Nas, he's like a Drake, he's like an Eminem. He's still consistently doing good work, just like J. Cole.
Yeah, I was about to
Like
say, J.
I left
Cole.
I left his name, but there's too many to mention.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
Kendrick. There's so many artists that are out there that can go quiet, come back, and still do fire music like they never left. That list is too long for me to name everyone.
Yeah, I would put some of them. I would have organized that list differently, but that's my own
Well,
bias.
there's no specific order that it was
Yeah,
coming
I
in. It
know.
was just off the
I know
top of
off
my
the
head.
top. I know.
Yeah.
I'm not. This not. We could have a whole conversation about that. But my man Kendrick is like probably my favorite artist, and then followed by Cole, and then everybody else can go in that.
Interesting.
That's just how I feel. That's why I've been waiting for this project that they're supposed to drop together, which I don't think will ever come out. Just like Dr. Dre's album. But
Interesting.
anyway,
It's still Kanye for me.
Kanye,
Bro, listen. All of those artists are good, and this is way off topic here. All of
yeah, I
those
was to
artists
say
are good,
this is
but
not an honorable mention.
none of them hold a candle to Kanye as an artist. I didn't say as a rapper, as an artist. None of them. None of those people that I mentioned hold a candle to him.
You know what? I also put Kanye really high, but for my own personal relatability, because especially like the fact that I do like music and produce and rap and all of that stuff, I always looked at Kanye like, yeah, okay, cool. But then to see what Kendrick and Cole are doing, like for such a long time, time will tell because the time limit hasn't matched up, right? Like Ye's been out longer than everybody, those two people.
Correct.
But I feel like we will see what it looks like. I think I
They're
still
not
put
gonna be
Kanye.
able to touch what Kanye
I'm
did.
sorry. I
I'll
still
tell
put
you
Kendrick up
why.
there.
I'll, you could
Go
put
ahead.
him up there, but how deep into his, and this is so way off topic, but how deep into his career is Kendrick right now? 15 years?
Yeah, it's been a while.
15 years into his career, Kanye did way more for hip hop than Kendrick has done so
That's true.
far.
I'll give you
He's
that.
done way more than J. Cole has. The only person that questionably I could say is Drake. Kanye has done way more for hip hop than, in my personal opinion, just about any artist that has ever held a mic. And I'm not saying that as a rapper, I'm just talking as an artist. And that artistry comes in the form of fashion, music, production, just as a whole, everything he's done. Come on, he is a cultural behemoth. There's not too many standing up there with
Yeah.
him.
I still yes. And we'll go up. I feel
I
like
could talk about Ye for forever.
this is one of those cases where we absolutely need to figure out a forum to have these conversations because
No
I'm sure.
vacancy, got to
Yeah,
come back.
hey, we got to figure something out because these things here are they're needed because
Yeah,
I'm sure other people are having these conversations.
yeah.
Anyhow, um, so going still keeping it on the music tip, there was some allegations that Remy Ma has has been causing has been handling some infidelity. There's been allegations of infidelity. I don't know. Have you been following this?
I haven't been following it. I'm aware of what's going on. It's one of those things where it's like, if that's what's going on, that is their relationship.
That's true.
Unfortunately, it's been publicized as a result of the rap battle thing. But if it is true, that's nasty.
It's
That's nasty work.
it's
I
nasty
can't
work.
believe that. uh, Listen, man, how do you do that to Papoose? That seems like the nicest. But then again, this goes back to the whole old time adage of nice guys finish last. But if this is truly what's happening, I can't say I'm surprised, because when I look at that relationship, she seems like she has more of the masculine
Damn,
energy.
son, you do that to Pat?
Bro, you're going to tell me that if you were to just look at how Remy moves and look at how Papoose moves, that you wouldn't think that Remy is more of the I I don't want to use the word masculine, but more of
Alpha.
the forward force, the alpha force,
Yeah.
the decision maker, the one who quote unquote wears the pants.
Yeah.
Looking at how they both move, you're telling me Remy doesn't give that energy more than Pap?
Yeah, it's definitely Oprah Stedman happening here. Like,
And that's all I'm saying.
yeah.
That's all.
And
I'm not
and
trying to emasculate him or anything. It just seems like, yo, if they were play fighting, I would expect her to pin him.
okay, that now you're going too far. Now you went too far.
Why?
I don't know if that's the case. I think
Why?
that Pop like the thing with Pop is that he was always a smaller star than Remy. And so from the outside, we don't know what their real lives are looking like, but it was just not. It was kind of messed up. All I'm saying is at the end of the day, if this is true, it's messed up, bro, because he held
It
her
is
down the whole time while she was in jail
the whole
and
time.
it's messed up. But we don't know, so we're not going to be part of the
Exactly.
rumor machine. I just wanted
Yeah.
to touch that as an honorable mention because it did happen in September, and
This
it
ain't
did
the shade room.
it looked weird. It looked cool. It looked very weird. Anyway, moving along to the last section, which we also honestly need to start not having this last. This should probably be second because you know why are we talking about Black excellence last? So we're gonna hold ourselves accountable for that going forward. Um, but we're gonna jump into our Black Excellence section, and there's a couple things that happened that was very interesting. So the first one, we saw Quavo was at the White House, and I think it was probably connected to the week. We have a week in DC which is called the Congressional Black Caucus Week, and so they have a lot of events in this area, and so I'm assuming it was around that time, and he went to Congress, and he is literally trying to really push for better gun control, especially after everything that happened to take off in November, which still fills me with such dread. Like that was so avoidable. um and you know yeah, so uh it was good to see him like taking that stance and trying to push for better um protections for gun violence and all of that stuff.
Agreed.
So it's good. I think that there does need to be more. As I think there's a whole nother conversation too, because I'm one of those people that um I'm a gun guy, I guess. Legally, I just want to say that. Make it very clear, it's legal. But like there is places where like there needs to be better regulation around stuff, because
Yeah.
and honestly, in certain cases when stuff is not done properly, there need to be stricter punishments for that. Like there needs to be some better gun control. I know that's like a forbidden word for gun people, but like something needs to be done because it's getting out of hand.
Yeah. In terms
Um,
of responsibility, I don't care if you're a gun person or not a gun person. There's no there's no weapon that shouldn't have some form of control in place if you're seeing a lot more violence being enacted by that particular weapon. It's like, yeah. And let's be honest, in terms of just mental health, it seems like that is something that is on a downward spiral right now. So you take a society that is filled with individuals with mental health issues, and then you make gun laws as relaxed as they are in some of the places here in the US. It's a recipe for disaster. So you really have to the government really does have to find a way to make this work, because if they don't, what we're seeing now is only a small percentage of what the future is going to look like if this continues to go the way that it's been going with these
yeah,
school shootings and public shootings, and it's a little much.
it's a lot, and it's something that we've been hearing the same old story for such a long time. Like something happens, it's thought and prayers, and then it's back to like, oh, we're gonna do something, and then nothing happens, and then it's
Right.
just like at a certain point, it's like, what's happening here? Like I'm
Yeah.
tired. So it's
So
good
big
to see.
props.
Yeah, good to see this, and I salute that man.
Same.
And our second Black Excellence is Stephen Curry and Ayesha Curry launch a program, and they allocate 50 million to initiatives to transform Oakland schools, which I think is good to see. People go giving back to their community and doing stuff like that. We also saw LeBron do some of that too, and like I respect it. I mean, somebody was giving LeBron crap about his school because they're like, "Oh, his school is not seeing the numbers that they would expect." But I'm like, compared to the public school, are we really being truthful here? Like,
Mhm.
so I think people also have unrealistic expectations for celebrities, but there's a lot of celebrities that do nothing. So
Yeah, you're gonna give a man a hard time for actually attempting to fix a problem. You know, it's just everyone's part of the peanut gallery that's willing to launch criticisms, but how many of those people are actually going out there and attempting to do something positive for the community?
anything,
Right.
like anything. That's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing that kills me. It's like you're not doing anything. So okay.
Sitting in your home from the safety of your keyboard, just typing garbage.
X fingers, bro. I tell you, that just sounds so crazy. First of all, we gotta talk. Well, we're not gonna get into Twitter and Elon Musk because I don't understand what he's doing there. But yes, so I just wanted to salute them
Yeah.
because I mean they didn't have to, right? Like, and it shows that they at least care about that. And I mean, I know this is probably gonna take some time, and I know they're not like just handing over 50 million, but like they're adding a process to improve that. And some of those school systems, they need that, right? Like they
Right.
need outside um benefactors, for lack of a better word. So it's good stuff.
Indeed.
Um,
Indeed.
so that is a wrap. We have wrapped up September, which was, I said, was a very, very quiet month, all things considered.
Yeah.
Um, so if you made it this far, you already know what I have to say. I appreciate you. This is something we do. It's a labor of love, and we appreciate anybody that literally checks it out. So if you haven't already, follow Aaron at Pour Over Finance. Links in the description and the bio. Well, the description.
Yeah.
I got to keep the platforms together in your head.
Yeah. It'll be
Um,
somewhere.
but thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Any final words?
No, just keep your noses clean.
Okay. All right. Well, that's been it. Peace.